Next we have Dick Barron. He is going to step up and give a presentation and an update on our web-based training, what's going on now and what we can see for the future.
Portion is going to be on an update on our web-based training. This is a PowerPoint presentation that was created by Dennis Halachoff, who unfortunately couldn't be here, so I'm gonna do the narration for it. Part of the updates, some background here, and some of this has already been gone over in different aspects from different speakers. So we're just going to touch on some of this. Basically, the web-based training courses are made possible through a partnership between the EMTSP and the Transportation Curriculum Coordinating Council, TC3, both of which are technical service programs for AASHTO. A technical working group comprised of AASHTO, EMTSP oversight panel members, and AASHTO EMTSP education subcommittee members oversaw the development and the course content of each of the modules. All courses offer professional development hours, and you'll see PDHs on your TC3 course completion certificates when you take those modules, which also serve as documentation of your attendance, and PDH requirements vary. Training levels, EMTSP website training is recommended for Transportation Curriculum Coordination Council levels 1, 2, 3, and 4. Courses that we have to date: preventive maintenance concepts for state equipment fleet management, benchmarking and best practices for state equipment fleet management, establishing equipment complements and sizing of state equipment fleets, utilization management concepts for state DOT equipment fleets, equipment specification, concepts and tools for state equipment fleets, and state procurement and disposal concepts for state DOT equipment fleets. Pretty much all of these have been created by Dennis. We got what he wanted to do, and he'd go ahead and do it. The first one, preventive maintenance, that was done a lot with CONDOT. I was involved in that one. And most of these ideas have all been driven by everybody from previous conferences. Just a little overview on each one, starting out with preventive maintenance concepts for state equipment fleet management. This course focuses on preventive maintenance programs, equipment fleet operations, which involve systematic and proactive schedule of work that provides inspection, detection, and correction. PM programs are a key element in supporting a cost-effective fleet program. These programs reduce equipment operating and ownership costs by minimizing unscheduled catastrophic repairs, equipment downtimes, and loss of operational productivity. Some of the topics that are covered in this module: fundamental preventive maintenance principles, basic elements of a preventive maintenance program, basic fleet supervisor and fleet technician responsibilities within the program, advantages and disadvantages of various maintenance modules, fleet management systems to capture operating data, and how to measure and analyze preventive maintenance program performance. I can say when this was first developed, this module is really intended for, it can be your present supervisors or who are running your shops, crew leaders, and for especially new people, because there is quite a turnover in our world nowadays. And there was a time probably when there was a lot of hands-on before people moving up. Well, that's not the case anymore. And giving somebody time to look at this program will give them a really good insight on what a good PM program is. And I think most of you know that preventive maintenance, at least in my eyes, was always number one. You lose that, you lost everything. So this is really a good program to get, especially the newer people involved in. And maybe some of your existing ones that maybe need a little refresher course on PM. Next one, module benchmarking and best practices for state equipment fleet management. Topic of benchmarking is closely aligned with performance management. Most agencies have a strategic plan from which they make decisions on how to allocate resources and pursue their long-range strategy. This course discusses how to create a group performance metrics to track based upon what is important in an agency's long-range strategy. And the course covers topics such as developing performance metric targets, measurement techniques, internal and external benchmarking, performance gaps, limitations of benchmarking, and benchmarking best practices. Covered in the module, fundamental concepts of performance management, performance metric categories, identifying appropriate performance metrics for benchmarking and associated targets, internal and external benchmarking, what to do with the benchmarking data, limitations of benchmarking, and identifying fleet best practices. And it shows in part of our metrics, and I know that's been talked about here with the yellow, red, and green lights, if you will, how an easy way to capture a lot of this information to see how you're doing, along with maybe see how you're doing against others. Next module, establishing fleet complements and sizing of state equipment fleets. DOT fleets utilize a variety of equipment to carry out their mission of providing safe, reliable, and efficient operation of highway and other agency operations. Precise competition of these fleets depends upon the state's geography, population centers, the mission, management policies of the department. Course covers various theoretical approaches and technical information on establishing a program for the proactive development of core equipment, fleet complements, and the overall optimization of fleet size. Covered in this module, overview of the optimization process, identifying the right equipment matrix for the intended operation, developing an equipment condition assessment program, advantages of leasing, renting, and other alternative sourcing of equipment, benefits of rebuilding and retaining long design life heavy-duty equipment, and fleet replacement funding mechanisms. Next module, utilization management concepts for state DOT equipment fleets. In an area of ever-tightening equipment budgets, the term utilization management has become the go-to strategy for squeezing greater cost efficiency out of equipment fleets without diminishing service levels to the customers. Utilization management involves ensuring the optimal number of properly specified equipment items and they're available for work, ready for DOT personnel. Covered in this, importance of managing equipment items like depreciating assets, minimizing asset life cycle costs, various approaches to managing utilization, fleet size, and composition, fundamental elements for utilization review and management, importance of developing a baseline for equipment types, classes, and numbers to perform mission-driven functions and activities, the role that a well-managed utilization program plays in a predictable annual equipment replacement program. Covered course provides a primer for basic knowledge and understanding of the development equipment specifications for procurement of state DOT required goods and services. This course content is focused upon new specification writers who want to understand and learn the basic fundamental skills in government procurement and specification writing. Participants will develop a working understanding of the specification writing process and how to incorporate skills learned into future procurement. The topics covered in this module, recognizing the different specification types and when to use each, understanding state procurement and ethics laws. Specification writers need to research utilization, application, attachments, accessories, technology, and engine requirements of the desired asset, specification document components, and the importance of grammar, punctuation, document organization, absence, and ambiguity. This was one that came up quite some time ago, and again, it was for a lot of us aging out and new people coming in who didn't have a lot of background in equipment. Especially trying to write a specification, and Dennis did a really good job, because this is one I definitely covered, and he really worked well that anybody who is up and coming, or even presently in your office that's doing specification writing, I would highly recommend this module to them, because it is very informative. Next one was state procurement and disposal, concepts for state DOT equipment fleets. Provides a primer for a basic knowledge and understanding of the complex principles and practices associated with public procurement and disposal of the state DOT fleet equipment. Participants We'll develop working understanding of the procurement and disposal processes and how to incorporate and apply skills learned into future fleet management responsibilities. And regardless of the type or quantity of fleet equipment your agency needs, the most important part of the mobile fleet assets procurement and disposal decisions making process is making the correct decisions relative to your applicable state laws, regulations, codes, etc. for the state from which you must operate. Not only can the wrong choices negatively impact agency service delivery, but they can also waste taxpayers' dollars, generate negative media and political attention for the agency, and tarnish your professional credentials. Covered in this, public procurement, an overview of principal concepts, fundamental standards and practices of public procurement, typical procurement services provided by the State Procurement Office, alternative equipment procurement sourcing strategies, common DOT equipment fleet disposal processes and practices, and then best practices, preparation, considerations, and actions, which this one, it's pretty good that this follows Jim Chupas's and the conversation everybody just had, because I can easily see that there has been quite a change in disposal of equipment and how we can do it. That at least my counterpart Jim there, he did well to get all this done. When I was in Connecticut, that wasn't happening. But I applaud him and his group and some others in here that are going that way, because as I see it, it is truly a best practice to get the best dollar, especially for the state, for when you want to dispose of your fleet. Under development, and Dennis is working on, is concepts for effectively developing and presenting fleet performance measures for state-owned highway equipment fleets. And EMT education, or the EMT Education Committee is currently reviewing lessons 1 or 2. And this course will contain 6 lessons, and I'm not going to get into that now. We'll wait till that comes out. Another one on development, best practices for quality assurance inspection of new vehicles and equipment for state fleets. EMTSP Education Committee is currently reviewing course outline and materials, and I'm told some of those are now being done, and they're just about ready to be sent back to Dennis and to the EMTSP panel. Authorized for development, the next 2 web-based training topics to be determined at this conference, and that was what you voted on yesterday, and we have that all tallied, and Tim will give an update on tomorrow on that. And that, since it was only 2, those will probably be the 2 next training programs. There was a webinar that was done September 15th, 2021 on that covered all the training concepts of what web-based training is. I'm going to get, when we're going to do the website, I'm going to touch upon going into the AASHTO site a little bit deeper, and I'll be covering some of that. Upon completion of the first 6 web-based training topics, EMTSP intends to issue web-based training certificate. Future plans include development of a certification program after development of other web-based training topics. Again, I just want to go over that if any way possible for people presently in management, especially if they don't have a lot of time, anybody coming up, these programs are really, really good information to have your people do it. And they can get on, they can do 15 minutes, stop, come back 15 minutes. You can fit it into their schedule. So I'm highly recommending, and I know Tim and the rest of the EMTSP members put a lot of time and effort into this, and I think it's really great. And again, we'll get into this a little bit more under the website. This isn't my creation, but I can answer any questions on the web-based training if there is any.
I just wanted to add to that if your state participates in the TC3 program, you can actually get their content from their website and actually host it on your website. You just have to report the numbers back to them on a quarterly basis. So you don't always have to go through the AASHTO website to take their content.
You can access these web-based courses without getting into AASHTO?
Yes.
Okay.
They will give you the content to host on your LMS.
Good to know.
Yeah.
And we'll also get into the part that I think Tim mentioned it, and we're not going to go that far, is that there is a no cost, and we'll talk about that getting into it, but all these are a no cost based for your states, for your members. Doug, you don't have to walk around so much. I'm disappointed.
I'm waiting.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.